One of the lessons I had to learn as a boxing fan when I was young was regarding the most important attribute to have if you're going to be a successful elite level fighter or at any level, not just elite level. So, my favorite fighters growing up were people like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., Prince Nassim Hamed. Prince Nassim was fantastically entertaining. I loved his power and I loved his athleticism. And so the fighters who I grew up admiring were, in the vast majority of cases, very athletically gifted fighters. And so I got it into my head in my younger years as a boxing fan that in the vast majority of cases, the more athletically gifted fighter, especially if there's a big gap in athleticism, is almost always going to win. It took me a while to figure out that that's simply not the case. There are loads and loads and loads and loads of examples of athletically gifted fighters who get beaten by somebody far less athletically gifted. It's not as simple as, oh, this guy is much faster on the pads and much more explosive when he hits the bag, looks much more impressive when he's training, therefore he's going to beat the other guy because the other guy's not half the athlete that he is. It took me a while to realize that. I eventually came to the realization that technique, fitness, ring IQ, these things are actually more important than athleticism. Athleticism is a nice thing to have, and it can benefit you, obviously, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And you certainly can't pick who's going to win a fight just based on athleticism. The intangibles also matter, as I say, ring IQ, the heart, so on and so forth. Now, I say all that to talk about David Adeleye's hookup with Adam Booth and his training footage ahead of this Filip Hrgovic fight. Because if you look at Adeleye in training, hitting the pads, here he is with Spencer Oliver looking very silly in the boots that Adam Booth wore for training David Haye against Nikolai Valoev. If you look at Adeleye on the pads here, the athleticism is very impressive. Fast hands, very well coordinated, great snap on his punches, sounds like great power, very fluid with the combinations, moving around, so on and so forth. If this was a contest between Adeleye and Hrgovic for who's more impressive on the pads, the fight would be over. Adeleye, in terms of athleticism, looks far more impressive than Hrgovic. But of course, we know that it's not that. His ring IQ might not necessarily be up to the task. We shall see. But against Jamie TKV, he was getting soundly outboxed by a guy who isn't as athletic as he is. Against Fabio Wardley, there's a narrative out there that Adeleye just got beaten from pillar to post from the first round. That's not actually true. I went back and watched that fight again recently, a week or so ago. And Adeleye actually won quite a few rounds in that fight, and his athleticism was bothering Fabio Wardley to some extent. But he appeared to gas out, maybe run out of ideas a little bit, and Fabio Wardley just clocked him with a big shot and took him out. But he was having some success in there. Maybe it was just a little inexperience, and who knows, maybe he has a stamina issue. We'll surely find out against Filip Hrgovic, because Hrgovic is a very tough man. He's been a distance several times and takes a good shot. Very experienced amateur. Fought some good guys in the pros, from Daniel Dubois to Zheli Zhang, Joe Joyce, obviously, most recently. So we'll find out about Adeleye's ring IQ in this fight and his stamina. But he's hooked up with Adam Booth, who is known to be a trainer who likes working with athletically gifted fighters. Like me in the 80s and 90s as a young boxing fan, Adam Booth seems to be one of these people who is still very impressed by athleticism. And don't get it twisted. Like I said earlier on, athleticism is a great thing to have in boxing. But if you fall in love with the athleticism too much and rely on it too much, you might not develop your ring IQ. You might not develop your technique to the extent that you need to. And when it comes to ring IQ, not every fighter can develop it to the same extent, because just like academic ability, somebody that might be good at mathematics, it doesn't matter how much the next person practices their mathematics, some people are always going to be better than others. Even if they do the exact same amount of revision and practice, some people just have an ability, an innate ability that is superior. So they have a higher ceiling in terms of how good they can be at mathematics. Similar thing, in my opinion, for ring IQ in boxing. You can spend all the time you want studying film, studying your favorite fighters, being trained by the best coaches in the world. Some fighters just have a natural ability to perceive things in the ring, to see things, to figure things out which is better, faster, and superior to other fighters. You can surely improve whatever ring IQ you have, but you might not be able to improve it enough to match some of the top guys. That's the thing. And David Adeleye against Jamie TKV looked poor in terms of ring IQ, very poor. And, you're waiting for that athleticism to show up, the explosive shots that we see from him in training and whatnot. But other than the shot that finished the fight, the controversial shot, and to be fair, TKV did hit him with similar shots earlier on. Other than that, you really didn't see the athleticism and the speed and the explosiveness from David Adeleye. He didn't get the opportunity. He wasn't skilled enough. He didn't have the IQ to set up the opportunities to use that explosive hand speed very often against Jamie TKV. Now, there's the possibility that David Adeleye just underestimated TKV and there wasn't enough fear factor there for him to take himself to the level he needed to be at in training in order to be at his best. That's a possibility. But again, another possibility is just he doesn't have the ring IQ. Now, Adam Booth, but of course he would say this, says that Adeleye is just a totally different animal in this fight. He says he's been much better in training, and he says it's a matter of transferring or replicating what Adeleye has been doing in the gym on fight night. And if he can do that, he wins the fight, says Adam Booth. And some fighters are like that. Some fighters, as I've said in many streams before, are gym fighters. They look $1 million in the gym, but under the bright lights, for whatever reason, there's some type of mental block. They get stage fright. Is David Adeleye one of those guys? So I say all that to first of all talk about the fight itself, because I think this is going to be a good fight. I've seen some people say they reckon it's going to be a snooze fest, a hug fest, boring. I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because both of these guys are very alpha personalities. Hrgovic is very alpha. He's got that steely, old school, Eastern Bloc, almost Ivan Drago-esque vibe about him. And David Adeleye is also a very alpha character. You've got two really alpha personalities. Secondly, Hrgovic doesn't have a great defense. He's also got a very good chin and he's aggressive. So unless Adeleye is the one to spoil, hit and hold, run around and do his best Lawrence Okolie impersonation, then I can't see Filip Hrgovic contributing to a boring fight. He's going to be there to throw shots and he's going to be available to be hit. David Adeleye, as I say, an aggressive personality, very explosive. He's not consistent with his shots. He doesn't throw a lot of punches. But when he does throw, it tends to be big, explosive shots. So for however long this fight lasts, I think it's going to be entertaining. I don't think it's going to be a snooze fest. I think the styles will gel very well. I think the two alpha personalities are going to make for an explosive contest. But now coming on to the title of this live stream, and that is Duke Mckenzie's prediction for this fight. Again, Duke Mckenzie has got a fantastic record when it comes to boxing predictions, particularly in the heavyweight division, going back a very long time. So I take what Duke Mckenzie says very seriously. I listen closely. I'm not saying he's always going to be right. Everybody gets predictions wrong. But for whatever it's worth, Duke Mckenzie is picking David Adeleye to win and to actually stop Filip Hrgovic in about the 10th round in what he predicts will be the fight of the night. So what do you guys reckon? Duke Mckenzie picking David Adeleye to score the upset over Filip Hrgovic and take him out in about 10 rounds. And before I go, make sure you check out my Moses Itauma Dylan White film study on Patreon. It's 1 hour of me going through actual footage from both of their fights and pointing out various technical flaws and proficiencies in both men. Will this be liftoff for Moses Itauma, or will the young contender be exposed as another pretender by the old warhorse Dylan White? This film study may persuade you one way or the other. Also, check out this other recent film study I've done, Alexander Usyk, Signs of Decline, where I go through footage of some of his fights, including his most recent win over Daniel Dubois, and point out what I believe to be indications of Father Time catching up with him. As counterintuitive as that might sound to some, given the fact he stopped Dubois quicker in the rematch than he did in the first fight, but there are reasons for that, which I go into. So make sure you check these videos out. You can access them along with previous film studies I've done and hundreds of hours of other exclusive boxing content on my Patreon page via the boxing tier, the Boxing Brotherhood. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee. You know the routine by now. All the links are in the description box below. I'll see you over there.